Well, the U.S. Supreme Court is back in session, and this new term is already shaping up to be one of the most consequential in years. From presidential powers to voting rights to LGBTQ plus laws. Yeah, the justices are taking on cases which could reshape our politics and our personal lives. Let's examine what exactly we can expect for this term. Eric Segall, a professor of law at the Georgia State University. Eric, welcome back to the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Oh, not a problem. What makes this new Supreme Court term stand out from others we've seen in recent years?
Well, the court has already agreed to decide so many important issues, as you just suggested. Of course, I think big on everybody's minds is the idea of tariffs, because tariffs affects the price of goods that we all buy. And President Trump has created a whole lot of tariffs on a whole lot of countries, and it's unclear if he has the right to do that under the emergency law that he is using to use it. So the case is going to hear that case this fall and decide it by June. It could have tremendous, of course, economic effects.
Yeah, it sounds like they have a lot of work to do, right? For folks that don't follow the everyday rulings, right, how can these cases actually affect the day-to-day life here in Georgia?
Well, the tariff case certainly does, because it affects the prices of goods. Mm-hmm. So that's an important issue. Another issue the court is going to treat this term is a law in West Virginia that bans transgender women from playing sports. And I think a lot of people are watching that one. I think we have a pretty good idea how that case is going to come out. The court is likely to uphold that law, but we'll see. That's certainly a big case. On Tuesday of this week, the court heard the first big case of the term, which was a conversion therapy case out of Colorado, where Colorado banned what's called conversion therapy, where people try to use a treatment to make gay people straight, effectively is what it is. But it's being challenged on free speech grounds. And the law is written kind of broadly, so a lot of people are watching that. But another case that will certainly affect the people of Georgia is a couple of cases where the court is going to decide whether the president has to have unilateral, complete authority to fire the heads of independent agencies. Independent agencies like the Federal Trade Commission and the Federal Reserve, especially the Federal Reserve, play a big role in our politics, in our economic system. What the interest rates are affects mortgages for everybody here in Georgia and every place else. And traditionally, since 1930s, the court has said that Congress can limit presidential authority to fire the head of those agencies so that they're not so much under partisan control. Well, this court is very likely to reverse all of that and give this president and future presidents the right to dictate how those agencies operate by having the power to fire the heads of them without any control whatsoever. And that is really a pretty big deal.
Wow. With what you heard so far, how would you describe the direction this court could be heading?
Well, I think if a neutral observer looked at the last 10 years of the Roberts Court, I think they could come away with two conclusions. And I don't mean this to sound partisan, it's just an observation. Generally speaking, most of the time, Republicans win and religion wins. I call it the R&R Supreme Court. I'm not criticizing that, I'm just saying this court seems, there's 6 Republicans on them. 3 of them were part of Bush versus Gore back in 2000. And this court seems to side with the Republican Party a lot. And in the case on Tuesday, where religion is kind of at play, it was a Christian therapist. There were some arguments the court shouldn't have jurisdiction over that case. And there's arguments on both sides of that issue. But whenever religion seems to be indirectly or directly involved, Justice Alito, Justice Thomas, Justice Barrett, these judges seem to side with religion quite a bit, even if it's a case where maybe jurisdiction is questionable. I expect both of those trends to continue. A huge case that's not there yet, but may be coming, 2 huge cases that are probably coming. One is, of course, been in the news all the time, President Trump using the National Guard in Portland and Chicago in a federalized way. That's been unusual over the last 50 years. That case in the lower courts now is going to come to the Supreme Court. And I say that because I think Atlanta might be a place where someday President Trump may want to send troops. So we should all keep an eye on that case if you live in Atlanta. And of course, the birthright citizenship litigation. President Trump issued an executive order changing birthright citizenship. People born here to parents who are visiting under this executive order aren't citizens of the United States. That would be a very different perspective. Every lower court has struck that down so far, but if one court upholds it, then I would expect the Supreme Court to hear that case.
Gotcha. All right, Professor Segall, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your insight on this. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Take care.
All right, take care.